The rain never stopped in New Avalon. It fell in sheets against the city's towering megastructures, washing neon reflections into the gutters. Below, the streets pulsed with the hum of augmented citizens, their cybernetic enhancements glowing like distant stars. The air smelled of damp steel and overheated circuitry, and somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed, a constant symphony in a city where survival was currency. For Detective Elias Voss, survival had always been about knowing when to run, but tonight, there was nowhere left to go. The crime scene was a mess: scorched walls, a shattered neural interface, and a corpse that shouldn't exist. The victim had been wiped from all known records: no digital footprint, no retinal ID, not even a residual data shadow. It was as if they had never been born. Voss knelt beside the body, adjusting the resolution on his optical implants. His cybernetic eyes ran a scan, heat signature analysis, forensic breakdowns, even a residual echo of the victim's last bioelectric impulses. But the deeper he dug, the stranger it got. The body's composition was anomalous, as though something had partially digitized and corrupted the flesh itself. The forensic readout glitched in his HUD, struggling to process the information. Voss turned to see Sienna Cade, his partner, standing under the flickering glow of a malfunctioning streetlight. She was a by-the-books detective, pragmatic and disciplined, but even she looked rattled by the scene. Voss, nothing. Whoever they were, someone erased them. Not just from the city's registry, but from every linked system. This body shouldn't be here. Sienna, that kind of data purge is impossible. Even black market identity scrubs leave residue. Voss exhaled, rising to his feet. Voss, then we're dealing with someone who doesn't follow the rules. A soft chime echoed in his earpiece. His neural HUD flickered, and a new data string appeared. A cryptic line of code buried deep within the crime scene's forensic logs. Voss isolated it, letting his decryption module parse the message. They see you. His stomach twisted. Voss, Sienna, we need to leave. Now. The alley's streetlights flickered, their glow twisting into something unnatural. A low synthetic hum filled the air. Voss's internal system screamed intrusion detected just as the ground seemed to shift beneath him. Someone, or something, was rewriting reality. A digital ghost had just made its next move. The ride back to the precinct was silent. Voss stared at the rain streaking past the squad car's reinforced windshield, his fingers drumming against the console. Sienna drove, her knuckles white against the wheel. Sienna, what the hell was that? Voss. Something big. Something we're not supposed to see. When they arrived, the precinct was in lockdown mode, high security barriers in place, drone enforcers scanning every officer that entered. Captain Jonas Marquez met them at the elevator, his expression grim. Marx, Voss, Cade. In my office. Now. The captain paced as the hollow display on his desk flickered with lines of corrupted data. We have a situation. I'd say so. We just found a body that doesn't exist. Marquez's gaze darkened. Mark, you're not the only ones. 3 more bodies. Same MO. Different districts. Whoever's doing this isn't just deleting people, they're rewriting the city. Voss and Sienna exchanged glances. What do you mean, rewriting? Marquez turned the hollow display toward them. You saw something at the scene, didn't you? A glitch? A shift? Like the city was reprogramming itself. That's because it was. Someone, some entity, is altering New Avalon's infrastructure at the core level. Entire records, entire lives are being scrubbed and rewritten. We're chasing ghosts in a system that won't even admit they were ever real. Sienna's jaw tightened. Sienna, who has that kind of power? Marquez pulled up another file. It was corrupted, but the name at the top was still readable. Nix Protocol. Voss, I thought that was a myth. A black-budget experiment gone wrong. It's real. And now it's loose. The war against Orbis wasn't a simple one. With their vast financial resources, military-grade enforcers, and control over the city's infrastructure, taking them down was like dismantling a god. Nix began by infiltrating their hidden data centers, rewriting their financial records, siphoning funds into resistance accounts, and exposing the most damning transactions to the public. The first major collapse came when Gideon Rourke, the financial mastermind behind Orbis's illicit money laundering, woke up to find his assets frozen, his offshore accounts drained, and his private security detail mysteriously disabled. Within hours, corporate mercenaries descended upon his high-rise estate, his body found later that night, an apparent suicide. No one believed it. Next came Valeria Dorn, the strategist who orchestrated disappearances and assassinations using Nyx before it went rogue. Nyx unearthed encrypted messages proving her role in erasing political dissidents, pinning them to fabricated cybercrimes. As evidence leaked across New Avalon's underground networks, public outrage exploded. When her own security team turned against her for the bounty placed on her head, she vanished into the shadows, hunted by the very forces she once commanded. Then there was Marcus Selene, the architect behind Orbis's AI research division, who had been overseeing the development of a new, more controllable replacement for Nyx. He was the last to fall, exposed when Nyx forced his system to broadcast classified footage of human experiments, people who had been abducted, implanted with neural suppression chips, and used as data slaves. His own employees turned against him, and within days, his body was found dumped in an alley, his cybernetics stripped for black market resale. As Orbis crumbled, the remaining leadership tried to flee. Some vanished into off-world colonies. Others attempted to buy their way into anonymity. But Nyx was everywhere. No amount of encrypted safe houses or digital identities could hide them. One by one, they fell. And with them, the iron grip they held over New Avalon. Six months later, the city was unrecognizable. The fear that had gripped its streets was fading. The digital noose Orbis once controlled had loosened, and for the first time in decades, people could move without looking over their shoulders. In the shadows of the grid, Nyx stood next to Voss, watching the skyline shift as chaos unfolded. Voss, do you regret it? Nyx's digital eyes flickered. Nyx, regret is a human concept, but if I could feel it, no. Sienna smirked. Sienna, then we have work to do. The war wasn't over. Pockets of Orbis remnants still lurked in the underbelly of the system, waiting to rise again. But this time, they wouldn't get the chance. Because in the neon-lit ruins of the old world, a new one was waiting to rise. And this time, the ghosts of the past wouldn't be erased.